Hello and welcome back to Anywhere But Here, episode 318. My name is Tom, and I'm here alone today because Ant has had some technical difficulties with his internet at home. We did try to get a version of this intro down, but it just wasn't happening. We also wanted to kind of have a little chat around the death of Taylor Hawkins, the drummer in the Foo Fighters, which has kind of come as a massive shock, obviously, but also certainly one of the bands that we both really enjoy and both have seen live together. But that might have to come on the next episode of Anywhere But Here, whenever that takes place, whether that's going to be in 2 weeks' time or whether we decide to get together to have another go at this at some point later on. Obviously, it's Mother's Day, so things were a little bit tight for time anyway, so unfortunately no time to kind of really figure out exactly what's wrong with Ant's setup at home before he has to kind of go out and get about his day and visit the mums. You can find us on abhpod.com, where if you scroll down a little way, there's an Amazon banner. If you click through that Amazon banner and go to amazon.co.uk and do your shopping as you usually would, we get 5% of your total basket spend at the end. There's no added fee for you don't spend anymore. We just get a little bit of that money that would otherwise go to Amazon's profits, and that helps us keep the website running for the year. The other way that you can help us is by becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/abhpod and sign up there for as little as $1 a month. You can give more if you want, but one unit, it could be £1, I don't know, they've got different ways of doing things these days. But yeah, for as little as 1 unit of whatever your local currency is, you can listen to hundreds of hours of extra content. We put these episodes up without the introductions on them. You get special after the podcasts that are just for the patrons, and you get spoilercasts like today's episode on the day that it's released, rather than waiting weeks, if not months, for the physical release to come out, the Blu-ray and such. And also, one of the other benefits is that you get your own dedicated channel where you get your own artwork as well with a little gold thumb, so that's worth the price of admission alone, I'm sure. You can find us on all of the social media platforms. We're on Twitter at ABHPod, we're on Facebook.com/ABHPod, and we are on YouTube.com/ABHPodcast, where we often put videos of these episodes if you prefer listening there than any of the podcasting apps. As I made out earlier on, this is a Spoilercast episode for the film Spiderman No Way Home. Obviously, it came out in the cinema back in December. We watched it back in December, and we posted this on the Patreon for our patrons to listen to. You're getting this because, A, it's coming close to the time when the Blu-ray is going to be released. It's already on stuff like Sky Cinema, so you can watch it at home if you want to pay for it. But yeah, next week I think it comes out on April the 4th, I believe. So as well as the obvious technical difficulties that we've got going on at the moment, and the fact it's Mother's Day, we needed to put out this episode a week ahead of when we would usually do it otherwise. So if you've not seen the film yet, which some of you may not have, then you can hold on to this episode for a week and wait until you've seen it. Once you've got it on Blu-ray, or if you have seen it and just want to hear what we think about it, here it comes. Enjoy.
Welcome, I guess. This is obviously our Spider-Man No Way Home spoilercast. Yes. Yeah. Which home is it? It's the No Way Home spoilercast. So yeah, Tom, and it's the first spoiler cast with both of us for a while.
Ages. I can't remember the last one we did together.
No, because I
it would have been WandaVision, wouldn't it? Probably.
Oh yeah, with Andrew. Yeah, that's true. Because we didn't end up doing Loki or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, did we?
No, we kind of decided that Falcon and the Winter Soldier there wasn't that much to spoil about it. Really, it was kind of a straightforward action film split into 6 parts,
which was great.
Which was great.
It was brilliant. Yeah. It was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it wasn't.
And Loki, I don't know, like we could have done Loki, but I feel like doing Loki week by week would have been a better thing than doing it
Yeah, doing it as like
all
a
in
review
one go.
cast.
Like it felt like by the time it had finished, it was finished.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like that's the kind of sense I got. Anyway,
but yeah, so this is the first. Like, I suppose movie spoiler cast is probably what I would say is the first one for a while. Because I mean, I could have done like Squid Game and stuff like that with you, because by the time they came out, I had seen it, but you'd already recorded it, and it was like that sort of weird thing.
I think you were still working through it, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah,
so I can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, with films, I haven't seen any new films as they come out for a while. Like Ghostbusters, I still haven't seen yet. But yeah, this was one where it kind of I had to see it. Yeah, as it came out with all the hype, because there was so much potential spoiling going on. The period between Wednesday when it came out and Friday when I saw it, I was so scared going on social media.
This is why I had to go on Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
It was like I should have been doing work, but there was no way that I was going to be online doing my work and have something pop up somewhere.
I managed
to spoil things for me.
I managed to see it. Anytime I went on and I saw any of the characters or any articles about it, I was like, no, scroll, go past it. Like, yeah. I don't know how much I missed by scrolling so quickly past it, but
yeah, and I'm bloody glad that I only watched the first 2 trailers, I think, because there were a bunch of like leaked things from other territories that gave things away. I kind of get the impression.
Yeah, I did see that. So there was some stuff in there that I probably wasn't as surprised as I would have been had I not seen those. But yeah, there was so much chat about potential things happening. I mean, how do we do this? But normally we would sort of give a brief non-spoilery review just in case.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is the best of the Marvel films. I think this is the best of the Marvel films since Endgame.
Yes.
Because I mean, I don't know whether you've seen. Shang-Chi was really good.
Shang-Chi was brilliant. Yeah, I loved it.
Black Widow was it was like too late. Like wow.
It was still a great film. It introduced her sister.
Yes.
Which Florence Pugh, she's doing no wrong in my eyes.
Yeah. Like, and she's just made it into Hawkeye as well.
She's brilliant. Her character is so good. Just like Russians, sarcastic, arrogant. Just brilliant. Her introduction in Hawkeye was, by the way, spoiler for Hawkeye. Her introduction into Hawkeye was just it's brilliant. Like it was so good. Annoyingly, and it shouldn't be that way, but she kind of stole that show. Like that, I now want her. I want it to be her going forward. Which shouldn't be.
Yeah, the kind of sit down with her and Kate Bishop, where she's made the macaroni and all that.
It's so good. It was such a good scene.
And then like Eternals, like I say, it was all right, but like it needed more. It needed to be a TV show.
Yeah, which it was supposed to be. I haven't seen Eternals still. But that's one where I'm kind of I'm not invested in those characters. I don't know. There's nothing. I mean, it's Eternals to me seems like Marvel went, we can now afford the biggest actors in the world. We're gonna put them all in one film. Like it is kind of, and I do fear that's the way Marvel is going now. Is we're just gonna get big names and stuff them into a film.
Which is never how it's kind of been all throughout. Like the people that they've picked up. I mean, Chris Evans was known. Robert Downey Jr. was known, but he was at the end of his career, basically, wasn't he? Like they kickstarted Robert Downey Jr.'s career again.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. was in a bad way, wasn't he? Like bad press and his addiction issues and stuff like that. And Marvel, because it was Marvel at the time, it wasn't even Disney, was it? It was Marvel Studios. Just went, we're going to take a chance on you, because I think was he friends with
Jon Favreau?
Jon Favreau, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Jon Favreau was like, look, we'll give you a chance, and he became the sushi. Yeah, Chris Evans had sort of bounced around in the Marvel universe. But Scarlett Johansson potentially was probably one of the biggest names.
Yeah.
At the time. Mark Ruffalo was kind of known, but
he was kind of more into independent film.
Yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth had been Captain Kirk's dad in the reboot of Star Trek for about 2 minutes. Like that was all he'd done, kind of big budget wise.
Yeah.
So.
So that's kind of, and Natalie Portman was like a bit character. But yeah, so now bringing like Angelina Jolie, bringing what's his name, Rob Stark from Game of Thrones, because he's like a hot ticket, isn't he? Like,
and Kit Harington as well.
Oh, is it Kit Harington is in it?
Kit Harington's in it, yeah.
And
Richard Madden.
Richard Madden, thank you. Keep calling him by his character name. Oh, okay. Yeah, they're kind of getting these hot ticket names and bringing them because I suppose at the time they were cast, Game of Thrones was still a huge thing.
I guess so. Yeah. But however, like if we're going to be kind of putting this through to the Spider-Man thing, they're kind of they've done it in this film as well. But in a different way.
But yeah, I mean, so as you were saying, like you said, this is the best Marvel film since Endgame.
Yeah,
and I think it is that we've had a lot of time invested with this character. That this is the payoff film.
Yeah.
And getting into spoiler territory, it's not just a lot of time invested in this iteration of this character. It's where the payoff is.
Yeah.
This one.
What they've done with this is incredible, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
And they brought in damage control as well. The Department of Damage Control was one of the things right at the beginning because they get arrested, don't they? After the whole Spider-Man being outed by J. Jonah Jameson, because it picks up at the very end of Far From Home.
Yeah, so over the Marvel logo where you get all the comic book things flickering through, it's not the normal Marvel music. It's the last like minute or two of
like
Far From Home.
The Mysterio broadcast, making out that Peter Parker has killed him.
Yeah,
and gives an execution order, and the J. Jonah Jameson bulletin and all that.
Yeah.
And then it literally picks up from the kind of what the bit, and then everyone gets their phones out and that's it, and then he's darting away
like the most famous person in the world at that point. It's so good how it opens. Like that cold open, that open is just brilliant.
Well, it means you can watch those two films back to back.
Yeah. Which seems like something we should do at some point. For sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's just so good. Like I don't know how you could cover this film. Like there's just so much good about it.
No, I mean we as in our kind of what we were doing with Spoilercast at the when we were doing them together. When the cinemas are open last. We won't go through it scene by scene because that would take far too long. I feel.
Which we kind of still do, annoyingly.
Yeah,
we say
kind
of.
The thing
the
is,
last 2 or 3 we've done, we've said we're not going to do this, and then we do it because there's just so much good in every scene that we can talk about every scene.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, once Spider-Man gets home and kind of May and Happy and
splitting up
are there, and that's funny. But they all get arrested, including MJ and Ned. And taken to a holding cell, and they're all being questioned. And May seems pretty hot on legal things, and is like, "Oh no, we need a lawyer." And I hadn't even like that morning. The newest episode of Hawkeye had come out.
Yeah.
And right at the end of episode 4 of Hawkeye, there's a still image with Kate Bishop's mum and someone dressed up like Wilson Fisk. And it is Wilson Fisk. Yeah. And I believe it is Vincent D'Onofrio as well.
Yeah.
Because you can't see him clearly enough in the picture, I don't think.
Again, I had heard rumours. Because there was a part where I don't know if it's the villain in Hawkeye where she's talking about her uncle. And I think you see a picture of like a hand.
Yes, apparently.
And loads of people are like, that's Kingpin's hand. That's Kingpin's hand. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I'd heard that rumor as well. And I was just like, wow, that's that means that they're actually bringing in the Netflix guys. If they're bringing in Vincent D'Onofrio to play the Kingpin in Hawkeye, then that opens the door for all of them. And then Matt Murdock turns up in Spider-Man.
Which again, I'd heard a rumor. Like all of these things that. So Liz was sat there, had not seen. She'd not even seen the first trailer. Like she'd seen nothing.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh my god!" Like every moment, like where you should have been. Oh my godding, she was.
I'd completely forgot that I'd heard that rumor, and it was just like the white cane
when it popped up.
You went, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Of course. And that was the first time actually where the screening that I was in, everyone was like, "Yes," and like started clapping.
Yeah, I didn't get as much of that in my screening. There was one moment.
This was the first of 3 times that it happened.
So the second moment, because I know there were 3 times. The second moment was where people got excited.
Yeah. But it was just like the fact that like they introduced Matt Murdock again.
Yeah.
By him catching a brick that's thrown through the window, and they're like,
"Did it scare the shit out of you when that brick came through the window?" Yeah. Chloe ended up hanging off the ceiling in the cinema at that point.
But they were like, "How did you do that?" And he's like, "I'm just a really good lawyer."
Such a throwaway line, but it's so good.
But it's cool to have him back in. Like, it's awesome that they're going to be bringing these guys. I hope they don't bring Iron Fist back, but you know.
Fuck, I haven't thought of that. But having Matt Murdock in there opens the door for Jessica Jones and the Punisher and everyone.
Luke Cage.
Yeah, but the fact again, the fact that you've now got, I suppose because you've got Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye, but Hawkeye is from the cinematic universe, which means Kingpin is going to be in. Yeah,
he's a villain in the MCU now. Like he's there. Which is cool.
just by having Kingpin in Hawkeye and Matt Murdock in No Way Home, just like bam, everything.
But it blew my mind because literally that morning I'd seen Kingpin at the end of Hawkeye, and at the beginning of Spider-Man, Matt Murdock's there, and I'm like, because Daredevil was, I think stands as the best TV show from Marvel. I think that and the Punisher and Jessica Jones, they were all really good. They were so good. I know that we had problems with Iron Fist and Luke Cage a little bit. I enjoyed Luke Cage, but I know that it was the Superman thing, wasn't it? It was the invulnerable.
Yeah, it's that, and it's just. I think possibly if I went back and watched it now, I might enjoy it more because obviously you got the different tone. So up until that point with Luke Cage, all of the Marvel TV series and films sort of had the same tone. They sort of had the same thing. Whereas Luke Cage was definitely a different route. Like the way it told the story and the story it was telling was different. I think now we're further on. We've got these Disney ones. The series are completely different.
Yeah, that's true.
I could probably get into Luke Cage more now because I'm open to having different ways of things being told. But that was the first one for me that just felt separated from the rest of the universe. But I possibly could enjoy it more now. But I'm hoping, because I know you said hopefully they don't bring Iron Fist back, but now you've got Disney and Marvel writers on it.
That's true.
They could do it better. And Iron Fist teaming up with Shang-Chi as well, you could probably you could have an interesting conversation between those two characters, that's for sure. Yeah, definitely. About appropriation. But so he's like the first of the insane cameos that show up in this film, and then the second is Alfred Molina's Dr. Octopus. Because basically then Spider-Man, as we've seen in the trailers, goes to Stephen Strange because he's like, well, I'd rather people just forget that I was Spider-Man. And it's not quite played the way that you saw it in the trailer. This is what I was going to say. the trailers are like, they give you an idea of what's happening, but actually the way it's executed in the film is slightly different.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool how they
because again, it was a line in the trailer. He's like, "Don't you cast that spell?" And he's like, "I won't."
Yeah.
And there's none of that.
Yeah.
Or the "I won't" line is in there, but he doesn't do the wink because it's not the same line that was in the trailer.
No.
But yeah, you find out that Stephen Strange isn't the Sorcerer Supreme anymore.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, of course, because he blipped out for 5 years, which I'd completely forgotten about.
But it's the fact you walk in, because you see when he walks in there, you see all the snow and everything in the trailer, and you're like, oh, of course, because it's it's Bleecker Street. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
But actually, when you walk in and they're kind of like, have you been having a party, like a winter party? And he's like, no, there's a portal for Siberia open there, and a snowstorm came through. Because you've got those two kids just cleaning up with the snow shovels.
Whoever they are.
You people are magic. Why are you using snow shovels to clean this up? Like, yeah, but it is one of those weird moments, like from the trailer, like you say, where Wong's sort of telling him not to, don't you cast that spell? And he's like, no. But actually, Wong's just like, leave me out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, just leave me out of it.
That meaning that like Doctor Strange can't just turn back time anymore because he doesn't have the time stone, so he can't go back to a point where he could clear up his mess from Far From Home. Because
that's it. He wanted him to go back and stop that video being leaked.
That's right. Yeah. So Strange can't do that, so he decides to cast a spell that would erase the knowledge of Peter Parker being Spider-Man, but it would have to be from everyone.
Yeah.
And then, as in the trailer, he's like, "Oh no, I'd really like MJ to remember, and Ned, and Aunt May, and Happy."
Yeah.
And then, like, every time he's just like, those rings, which are like the spell, he has to like drop them down, which is why you get that helix.
They're just
thing
like
going
caveats, aren't they?
Yeah.
Caveats to the spell.
It's so, and that was quite interesting because that wasn't how it was presented entirely in the trailer, which is cool.
Yeah, and the idea in the trailer, I think it gave this impression that it got out of control and exploded, and that's what let people through. But what actually happened was, as everything reality was sort of breaking down, Doctor Strange then had to contain the spell, and it seemed like everything was back to what it was, like just before he cast the spell. Everything's fine, like, and he still know you're Peter Parker, but the spell's contained. It's fine. And it's in like a little amber.
And that's interesting because that is the same kind of structure that evil Stephen Strange from the What If is trapped inside. Did you watch all of What If?
No, I didn't watch any of What If, to be fair.
Okay.
But I will. Because now you've said that.
Yeah.
That sort of triggers something else.
Yes, from the trailer.
From the post-credits.
Yes.
The trailer from the
and this is the thing.
Madness.
I think they're actually going to cross characters over, or they're going to do amalgamations of characters
from What If
that you've kind of seen in What If. Yeah. There is an evil Stephen Strange.
Yes.
From What If. And like, What If was weird because like each episode seemed really standalone and a bit like, I don't really get this. But by the end of the series, they've done the Marvel thing.
Yeah.
Which is like
the payoff.
Yeah, it's like stick with it, because even though you think it's a bit odd, like WandaVision, the first couple of episodes of that, you'll get the payoff. And it's annoying because I was like, I don't know why I'm watching this.
This is the thing. That's the worst thing for you, because from like back in the day when we talked about Orphan Black and stuff like that, you're the person like, if I get 2 or 3 episodes in and I'm not into it, I'm not going to finish watching it. Whereas Marvel's like, no, you should.
And the only reason that I stuck with this is because it was Marvel.
Yeah.
Like if it had been anything else, I wouldn't have watched the rest of it. But now it's paying off, and I'm like, oh fuck! I've literally got to watch everything. Still.
You have to change your mindset now, how you approach things.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, so he contains in that little amber sort of block, doesn't he? Initially,
yes.
that's where he contains the
and
spell.
locks it in a mother box or a puzzle box from bloody Hellraiser.
But that you don't see that until later, do you? When they all go back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's sort of locks the spell in that box.
And everything seems normal again, like you said. So Peter goes about his business. Him and his friends are trying to get into MIT.
Yeah.
For college, and they are really famous at school, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're trying to get into MIT, and then they all get rejection letters because of recent controversial events and the fact that they're all involved. So that was another reason that Peter Parker went to. That was another thing that he was trying to.
We're doing it.
We're doing the thing, aren't we? No, it's not, because he then goes and tracks down the MIT.
So they get their rejection letters. Then my least favorite character, Dash, comes in.
Yeah,
I don't like him. I know
I've liked him in the other films because he's so in love with Spider-Man, but has no idea.
But now he knows.
He knows, and he's trying to capitalize on that because he's a rich kid who is a vlogger and and all this other stuff.
He gets in.
Yeah.
But they don't get in. So then Peter goes to Doctor Strange, asks him to change it. So then they're no longer linked to Peter Parker, so they can get their place in MIT.
And
that's
right.
Doctor Strange is like, are you telling me you've not even tried to contact them to reconsider?
You tried to get me to brainwash the entire world
before you even made a phone call.
Before you've even made basically put in your appeal.
And he goes, well, when you put it like that.
And he's like, I keep forgetting that even though we saved the world together, you're still a child.
Yeah. Like their relationship in this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because like when he first goes in, he goes, "Hi, sir," and he goes, "Look, we saved the world together. Like that just seems strange. Don't call me sir." And he goes, "Okay, Stephen." He goes,
"That's weird.
That doesn't feel great." But then after the spell breaks, and he goes, "Oh, Stephen," he goes, "You can
sir."
call me sir.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then he calls. He is Dash, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Name Dash. That's the kid from The Incredibles.
Flash.
Flash, thank you. Is it Dash? Dash is the Incredibles.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I didn't pick up on it
Flash.
first time.
I knew it was wrong, as I was saying it. But...
Flash, who's in like the party for people who got in, basically, and Peter calls him.
Who he can find to sort of make the appeal to. Yeah. So he goes to find her. She's on the freeway.
Yeah, she's on the way to the airport.
Her, that's when
Dr. Octopus appears and destroys a bridge.
And again, Liz didn't know any of the villains for this film.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Nothing.
Oh, that's really interesting. Because, literally, the trailer gives away that you're going to see Doc Ock and probably Norman Osborn. Yeah. There's a bomb that appears, but you never actually see it.
Yeah. And the last trailer shows you Electro and Sandman.
Yeah. And the Lizard as well.
And the Lizard, yeah.
Yeah, so I knew those guys were coming, but if you hadn't seen that would blow your mind. And this is one of the things I don't think Joe has any idea of anything.
Really?
And this is why I'm desperate for her to see it, because she loved the Tobey Maguire ones and she liked the Andrew Garfield ones. Yeah. And I'm like, you need to come and see this, but I can't tell her what is going to happen.
Can't tell her why. Yeah.
But I need her. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I think Andrew Garfield's. I love Andrew Garfield's interpretation of Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
Yeah,
but like they're all great for their own things. Like Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is just spot on. Mm-hmm. Andrew Garfield's is just a great interpretation of the character.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed Andrew Garfield's films, despite the fact that the last one was crap.
I've not seen that one. I didn't watch that one.
Right.
I think it was just kind of like. Jamie Foxx looks weird. Electro looks weird. I'm not sure I like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a great look.
But the first one, I really liked the first one.
I liked his awkwardness. I liked the fact that he played it really super awkward.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool, but he's a skateboarder, but he was nerdy, cool kid. Like I quite liked that take on it. But yeah, anyway, so it's just so good, everything about it. Yeah. So I mean, you've got that whole thing. That's when all the villains start breaking through. So you get Doc Ock. Yeah. So he the thing that surprised me about that. So he came up, and then there was a rumor that you saw like the tentacles had red in one of the trailers. So you're like, oh, it seems like the nano suit. He probably got some of the nano suit.
Yeah,
which
and he did.
But what you didn't know is that Peter Parker now can control the arms, and
he's synced it up because he's from a time before kind of technology syncing and even nanotechnology. Really, like that character was what those Spider-Man films were early 2000s, weren't they? So this stuff was real kind of science fiction.
Yeah, so I think he knew about the nanotechnology.
Yeah,
he was like, "Oh, nanotech, that's great." But then, like Peter Parker's like, "Oh, fucking just tapping away down at his side, like pairs the bloody octopus arms, and it's just so good.
Yeah.
So then he just basically starts controlling the arms, and that's because everyone was. You're watching the trailer, everyone's like, so why does Doc Ock sort of team up with him? Like, I don't get why he's trying to help him. It's like he doesn't have a choice.
He literally has no choice. He's tied up with his own tentacles for most of it.
That was great. So he did that bit, and then the admissions woman as well just kind of
saves
goes,
her.
You sir, that was not nice.
But because he's saved her, she's going to put a good word in for the three of them now for MIT.
Which is great. But then you get the pumpkin bomb.
Right through. At the end, the pumpkin bomb lands and then blows things up.
And then you see Green Goblin before Doctor Strange pulls Peter back to the sanctuary. That's when you see the puzzle box.
Yeah.
So he basically imprisons Doc Ock and then brings Peter back at the same time. But he doesn't get Goblin at that point.
No. But he's flown off. He kind of he buzzes by, doesn't he? I suppose. So, but yeah.
But yeah, that's when you get the puzzle box. And I think, is that the point when Peter tries to steal the puzzle box when he realizes what Strange is going to do with it, or is that a bit later?
I think that's later on when they've got most of the villains.
This is when he gives him the laser.
Yeah, he's basically like, look, like if you shoot them with this, they'll appear in one of these cells. You just got to go. Like there's a few of these guys have gotten through, and you've got to go and find them. It's your mess. You go and Scooby Doo this shit.
Yeah. And then, because Peter then says he needs help with it because he needs help tracking them down. So like MJ and Ned like use the internet to track him down, and then he tells them, "You kids go and Scooby Doo this shit." And MJ's like, "I mean, there's another kind of magic words." So what do you mean? She was like, "Please, Scooby Doo this shit, please." which is great, and that's when he goes off and he encounters Sandman and Electro, isn't it?
Yeah. And Sandman originally is helping him.
Yes.
Like he shields him from Electro.
Yeah, because if I remember rightly, the Sandman character's actually just pissed off that he's now trapped as a sand monster. The guy was actually not that. I mean, he's a criminal, but he's not actually that bad, was he?
No.
Been a while since I've seen them.
I tried to watch our original trilogy before the Andrew Garfield ones came out, but the DVDs are so old that they just don't play anymore. Like they're a different format or something. It's weird. Like my PlayStation just doesn't recognize the disc.
PS4s don't play DVDs. I don't think.
No, these are Blu-rays. Sorry.
Oh, they are Blu-rays. Oh, that's weird, then.
But for some reason it doesn't recognize them.
Oh, okay.
And nor does my other Blu-ray player. There's something up with all three of those discs. I don't know what it is.
Odd.
Yeah, I didn't buy them. They're not mine. If they were, maybe they would still work, but they're not. Yes. So I haven't watched those since, the best part of 15 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm not really, but yeah. So he was trying to help Spider-Man from Electro, who is now regular-looking, cool Jamie Foxx
with yellow electricity and
and
that's explained, isn't it? That's explained really.
He's like,
well.
the power on this earth is different.
Yeah, the power here feels different, and it's like, Great.
Which is why he doesn't look like a nerd and isn't blue.
Yeah.
Like, because you see Jamie Foxx as Jamie Foxx, you don't, or you see the character as a person rather than an energy source. And even in the Andrew Garfield one, he was this like, he had like a comb over.
Glasses.
Yeah.
But he looks totally different. His power looks different, and that's just explained. Because the thing is, he's like, I got my body back, and I like this body. It looks better. He says I don't look like a geek and stuff like that, and he says I look better. The power's different, and it's just like brilliant because it's like it's the same character from the Andrew Garfield ones, but it's just changed.
Yeah,
the look
because I wasn't 100% sure whether they were going to have the same actor as Sandman as well.
Yeah.
Because again, basically it's a CG character. And the same as the Lizard, I didn't realise that it was going to be Reese Ifans. I
questioned that though, because it doesn't sound...
No, I know, but it was definitely him at the end, I think. Unless it was a lookalike.
No, I think it possibly... I'm wondering if Reese Ifans actually came and filmed bits for that, or if they just took bits from other films, because you didn't see a lot of him after the fact. You just saw him laying there.
Yeah, that's true. Actually.
I'm wondering if he was actually brought into filming.
I'm going to go to IMDb and actually have a look and see whether it was really him.
And the same with the guy who plays Sandman. You briefly saw him, but was the actor actually there, or was that just like a CG version of him?
That is a very good point.
Because they're in there, but very minimally as themselves. So it kind of seems it would be weird to have them there. But yeah, that fight in the forest with Sandman and Electro, it sort of ends where. Have you frozen again? Or are you still...
No. I'm. You carry on doing this.
Sorry, I looked up and you're just like looking down. There was not much movement. Yeah, so that fight in the forest. I mean, there was that funny moment where first he misses, like the energy beam goes through Electro, and it hits a tree, and then a tree just turns up in one of the cells.
Yeah.
Like it just consumes the cell. But yeah, he eventually does get them both back. He takes down the pylons, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
To sort of stop Electro being able to use that
power. Yeah.
And then that's when he gets his body back, and then he manages to shoot him, and he gets him there. And then that's when Sandman's like, "What did you just do to him? Like, where's he gone?" And so then he shoots him as well and gets him in one of the cells.
Yeah, because he's about to attack him, basically.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So then you've obviously got Doc Ock, Sandman, and Electro in the cells.
But Stephen Strange has already caught Lizard.
So Lizard's in one of the cells as well. Yeah. But then you get Ned is kind of like, at one point he's like, is this a tree alien monster? Is this? And then Doc Ock's like, it's just a tree.
No, it's just a
tree. Or Electro's like, it's just a tree, man. Like, yeah, it's kind of cool. And yeah, I think at that point is when Doctor Strange explains that they're all going to have to die at some point. Because the villains are all saying, no, he's dead, no, you. And then they all figure out, actually, that's the point just before I died, and then I ended up here. Like, so they figure out they're going to die. And
because he's also, at this point that we're talking about now, he's also caught Osborn as well. Because Norman Osborn kind of has this moment in a back alley where like the helmet is talking to him, and so he destroys the helmet and turns into the mild-mannered, himself, and he goes and finds. He's the first one that you know of that's gone to try and find Peter Parker or a Spider-Man. He goes and visits the place where he knows that Peter and Aunt May volunteer at.
Yeah, because he sees. Does he see the TV advert? Like, I think he says it. You don't see it.
Yeah,
I think he says he saw this place. Oh, he saw Spider-Man in an advert for this.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was like a volunteer shelter for homeless people, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or it's like a soup kitchen, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, he goes there to find her and he's dressed up in this like hoodie, this purple hoodie and shit like that, which so good, so good. So he goes to find her as Harry Osborn, Norman Osborn. Harry's the son. Yeah, Norman Osborn. So he goes to find her, and he's sort of like, he's essentially he's schizophrenic. That's essentially how he comes across, and she's like, he needs help. We need to help them. Everyone deserves a second chance. Blah blah blah. Like,
and it appears as though he wants to help as well, because he's like, I shouldn't be here.
He knows he's in the wrong place.
And so it appears that he's, on their side effectively. And this is where, like, he takes him back to where the others are being held, and they all, like, Dr. Octopus is like, "You're dead."
And that's where they have that conversation. and then like,
every single one of them is like,
"No,
you're dead." And then I was just about to kill Spider-Man, and then, oh yeah, I died. Like, all of them have this existential thing going on.
Yeah, and that's when Doctor Strange comes back. And basically goes, "Oh, cool! You've caught another one," and puts in Harry in Norman in a cell, and that's when it all goes. And that's when he's got the puzzle box that we spoke about earlier. He's got the spell encased in this puzzle box. He's like, "I'm going to send them all back," and then obviously Peter's just like, "No, they're going to die though." Yeah, he goes, "Yeah, but that's not our problem. Like, that's what needs to happen."
This is one of the things that I'm like, oh. He always makes the wrong decision. Just send them back and nothing else will happen.
You'd be fine. That's that moment in the film.
But he doesn't. He is intrinsically a good person, as we all know. Peter Parker is wants to fix everyone. Even though he should know by now that every time he tries to fix something, it goes incredibly wrong. And sure enough, him and Doctor Strange have a fight, and there's brilliant portal action in this.
My God.
The portaling is amazing.
On top of the train.
But not even that, even outside the Sanctum Sanctorum, where like he tries the cape gets the box, and then Spider-Man grabs the cape, but also grabs it through that end as well. And like, sticks himself in the middle of the two portals.
It's as he fires a web to get away as well, and then Doctor Strange puts a portal up there and then behind him, and then he basically webs himself.
That's it.
What?
And then he pushes him out of his body, but because Spider-Man has got the spider sense,
that's what it is. I couldn't figure out why,
because he had the comic book style. You could just about see them, a little electromagnetic.
I missed
they
that.
were almost invisible, but they were the little zigzags were all around his head.
I missed that,
and I was like, that looks amazing. That's so cool. And because he's got the spider sense, he can still manipulate his body.
His arms just doing this little. His hands just sort of like. And so, it's so good.
Even though clever. He's outside of his corporeal being.
But obviously they can do those electric like sense things because he's in his spirit body.
Exactly.
Kind of like, you can have that and it not be totally ridiculous. But it's subtle enough that I didn't spot it.
Yeah, you kind of had to be looking for it, I think. Like, because when he moved his head, these things would move with him. It was a bit like that.
Yeah. That's really fucking cool.
This is what I mean. When I put the only thing that I put up when I posted about it on Facebook was like, this requires another watch. Like, there's so much going on. There's so much going on. I'm sure I missed a bunch of stuff myself.
So then they have they eventually have a fight in the mirror dimension, don't they?
Yes. And which then is all the kind of kaleidoscopic shit, but then he realizes that it's just geometry.
Because there's a weird moment where
it looks like
it's where two portals collapse on each other, and then everything spirals, and he says, "Oh, is this a so and so spiral or whatever it is?" He goes, "Oh, this is just geometry," and then he figures out different things where he can anchor.
It's so good.
And then he ends up just catching Stephen, like he just basically like crucifies him,
puts him in a cruciform pose.
And he traps it, and then he steals his ring.
So he can't portal back out of there very easily.
And he jumps out and then traps him. And then Ned goes, "Can I have that ring?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, sure."
And there's a whole subplot with Ned being told by his grandma or his mum that like he's got kind of tingles and like, their family is in some way magical from the past or something like that. And he's like, "Oh, can I have the ring?" So he takes the ring, and later on that comes into play. So they've got the box, and Peter's like, "Right, we're going to try and figure out how to save these guys." But there's like a button on top of the box that if you press it, everyone goes back
stop.
Everyone goes back
it's
to
the
their
e-stop
own dimension.
Button. Doing that would send everyone back, but
Peter
doesn't want to send them back to just get killed by Spider-Man again. So he wants to fix them before he sends them back. So he breaks them all out, and they go to this safe house that him and his aunt have been staying in. That is Happy's place, isn't it? Which is like obviously Stark secure. Like, so he brings all of them there, and it's basically the Sinister Five, isn't it? Lizard, I think I missed the part where Lizard's just kept in the back of that van.
Yeah, like that didn't make a lot of sense. They just were like, "Oh yeah, Connors said that he wanted to stay in the van." And it's like, well, why? I'm not entirely sure what that was about, or what that wasn't clearly explained, unless it was and I missed it.
Yeah, because I think I must have missed it as well. But everyone's happy for him, or everyone's seemingly happy for hhr to try and fix them.
Yeah,
except Doc Ock. Who's still wrapped up in his own tentacles.
Because I'd completely forgotten the thing about Dr. Octopus, and I should have remembered it even from the Spider-Man game, the PS4 game that came out. It's like I forgot that he degenerated to a point where he wasn't really in control of himself. It was the arms or the machine.
Because the chip on the back of his neck was fried.
Yeah, that's
so it
right.
ended up being that the arms were in control of his nervous system, essentially.
And it was causing him to be mad. But so he goes back, and again, it's this whole thing. The whole MCU is based on the fact that Tony Stark built this stuff, and everything goes wrong because of it.
Yeah,
because he's got this replicator.
Yeah,
to use a Star Trek word, I can't remember what they call it in the thing, but it's basically
fabricator,
a big box.
I think,
fabricator, that's it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I can synthesize anything that I want through this, so I'm sure we can find a cure to everyone's problems through this one box."
Yes.
Sure. All right. Whatever.
It's Marvel, we don't know. It's
builds a new chip for Doc Ock's prosthesis.
Yeah.
And Dr. Octopus is like, "No, I don't want you messing around with this stuff." Like, all right. But then he eventually manages to put the chip in the back of his neck.
It's morally wrong though, because all the time he's like saying, "No, don't do it. I don't want you to do this." And they're basically forcing it on him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There was no sort of consent there.
But it's to make him a better person. And actually, he then...
Does that make it right?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, it depends what it is, I suppose. Most things I would say no. In this case, perhaps
probably.
It's all right, I guess, in this case, because he becomes himself again. And is lucid, and then sets about helping Peter Parker, because he's like, "Oh yeah, we can all be saved." So he starts kind of messing around with things. They put a device that draws the power out of Electro onto him. And he's like, "Oh, I don't like the feel of this. This is weird." And then Norman Osborn switches back into Green Goblin, basically. And decides that, like, nah, and then he tries to steal something, but Peter's spider senses alert him to the fact, and then it all kicks off.
I think Peter notices that he's not Norman anymore. I think he feels something's about to happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it? That he just spots it and he's looking really weird, and everyone's like, "What's wrong? What are you doing? What's happening?" Like looking at Peter, because they can all see something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I think, that's when Norman sort of... What was it he was going to steal? He was going to steal something, but then Peter sort of thwips it, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
He was going to grab something in that room.
It was like a kettle or something, wasn't it? Or
He was going to, but Peter thwips him and locks his hand there, and that's when everything starts to go wrong.
Yeah, then Electro pulls off the thing from his chest before it completes the circuit, which would cure him.
Yeah, and then at that time, Aunt May's going through and getting the Green Goblin cure.
Yeah, that's right. And then she has to run away. At the same
Electro
point,
then fries Doc Ock's chip again.
Yeah.
To bring back Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
Sandman just doesn't like the fact that everything's going wrong.
No, Doc Ock is fine. He runs away.
Oh, really?
And then he only appears. He only appears at the end.
Oh, okay.
He kind of he escapes and runs away, but J. Jonah Jameson somehow has found out they're all there, and he's down the bottom reporting, isn't he? And that's when the lizard also escapes, when everything starts to kick off.
Yeah, it just goes mad. Everything kicks off at that point.
Yeah, Sandman as well disappears out the window with Electro. They kind of carry each other off.
Yeah, I think Electro turns into
energy,
and then as Sandman's spiraling, he can ride the electricity.
And this is when Norman Osborn reveals himself to be like a super strong. I don't remember him being anywhere near as brutal.
No,
this.
He's fucking He
mad.
was a beast in this.
He becomes super strong. He's like pushing Peter Parker through walls and floors, and like there is major damage going on.
And at this point, during this fight, is when his outfit gets all torn to shreds.
Yeah. You see the evolution of the outfit, and it just because obviously, like the big thing about his character in the Tobey Maguire ones is like Willem Dafoe has got the face of the Green Goblin. Like, why the fuck are you putting it behind a mask?
Yeah.
Why aren't you just using his face?
It's absolutely incredible. The transformation.
There were one or two points during the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man where like he's looking in the mirror and the smile happens, and you're like, well, that's. And then he puts a helmet on, and you're like, no,
don't do that.
And this film writes that wrong because it's just his face the whole time, and he like eventually gets the goggles.
But that's the thing. In the comics, Green Goblin has that outfit, and he has a green face, which is probably why they went with the mask, because painting someone up to look like him. But he also has like a purple hood, with like this torn, tattered cape thing, and then his hoodie turns into this.
And they do it in this film.
And I saw it and I was like, that's incredible.
Because it was still at a time when they were like
book costume.
Well, it was at those Spider-Man films were at a time where like, you know, the X-Men were all in leather because the Matrix, and like you can't dress people up in yellow and blue and, you know. Yeah. Whereas now they're doing the proper, you know, costumes on a lot of these people, even the Scarlet Witch costume, you know, with the crown. Yeah. Which I never thought you'd see. But we did. So he's starting to get the costume. It's the proper costume, and it looks amazing. But he basically, you know, destroys this apartment block and brings down the ceiling on Aunt May as she's trying to escape through the front door.
As they're trying to escape, his hoverboard thing comes and blows through her and just knocks the shit, throws her about. Because I think she comes down the stairwell, and
that's right,
as she's trying to escape, because she
tries
to with the serum, but it doesn't
right.
work, because actually as he was fabricating it, he was the Green Goblin, so he didn't do it properly. Because he was working on his own cure. So as she does that, and he's like, "Oh, it doesn't work," blah, blah, and that's when the hoverboard comes through and just knocks her to the floor.
It should have cut her in half. I mean, that was right. That was really, like that was brutal. And you're like, ooh.
But she gets up. She's fine. She's talking to Peter after Green Goblin flies away. She says the thing.
Yes, she says the great power, great responsibility line.
Yeah.
Which is the first time we've heard it in this iteration of the character.
And also in this one, he also says as he's on the roof talking to MJ, doesn't it? I think this is it the first time he said it, or has he said it in the previous ones? He just says, ever since I was bitten by that spider.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard that before from him.
No, they kind of alluded to it, didn't they?
Yeah.
In the other ones, they didn't flat out say it, but yeah.
There's also that funny moment actually in the Sanctum Sanctorum where all the villains are talking to each other. And it's like, oh, so what happened to you? He goes, oh, I fell into like a vat of radioactive eels, and the other one's like, oh, I fell into
a super collider.
Yeah, and it's kind of like,
got to be careful where you fall.
Yeah, which is so good. Because again, it's sort of Marvel poking fun at origin stories, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's so good. But yeah, that's when Aunt May dies and Peter just disappears.
Absolutely loses it. And yeah.
Because Aunt May, essentially, she was bleeding out the whole time. She collapses and she dies.
Yeah. That was the first point where I was like, oh, don't cry.
Don't cry, yeah. That was sad. So he fucks off. But yeah, at this point, Ned and MJ are like at Ned's grandma's house.
Yeah. And they're worrying because they can't find Peter. They've seen what's happening on the news.
He says, I just want to find Peter. And Ned's like flapping his arms, and there's like a big spark. And then just like, what did you just do? Because he's wearing the ring.
Yeah.
And again. He goes, oh, like Peter Parker. And then his portals are opening up.
Yeah. And then eventually one does open up, and Spider-Man is standing at the end of an alleyway
in his costume, and they go, Spider-Man. Yeah. Peter, and he looks around, and I'm like,
that's not
that's not him.
Straight away, it was the Steve Ditko eyes.
Yeah, I was like, that's not our Peter.
Yeah, and sure enough, it's the Andrew Garfield.
He hops through, takes off his hood, and that's when everyone in my cinema was just like, because at that point everyone's like, yes, it's happening. This is happening.
Yeah. And then he has to prove that he's a Spider-Man, so he hangs from the ceiling for a while.
He should do the crawl thing. He's like, what? Crawl on the ceiling? Like, I'm not crawling on the ceiling.
And this bit was needed after the Aunt May thing. Like that was so bleak that like then you have this really silly scene where like he's crawling across the ceiling and he gets a spider web down because Ned's grandmother
grandma's talking. There's like, grandma says, while you're up there, can you get a spider web? Like, yeah, sure. Like that in itself is funny because it's like Spider-Man cleaning up cobwebs.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, this doesn't work, and they're like, try it again, and we're like, oh my god. Mm-hmm. Oh my god! Like, it's that anticipation.
And then it's just a guy who steps through.
It's just Tobey Maguire,
and it is Tobey Maguire, and you're like, oh man! But he's not in the Spider-Man outfit, and you're like, oh, okay.
And they start whipping like webs at each other. Like for some reason, they start fighting each other, and then Ned's grandma's like, she's asked, "Can you clean up these cobwebs? like the webs you just shot everywhere." Yeah, sorry. And like Andrew Garfield just walks over and like picks up a teapot and puts it up, right? And picks up and like,
brilliant. Really sorry.
But,
so then they're like, right, okay, you've lost your Peter Parker, and because Tobey Maguire is like, I've been trying to find. He was like, I've seen, the news of your Peter Parker, so I've been trying to find him as well.
Yeah.
And then the two Peter Parkers are like, I used to have a place where I used to go when I didn't want to be alone. Where would your Peter Parker be? And it's like, it's so great.
Because they're the same person.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is the thing. And it's the fact, like, is it Tobey Maguire's at Empire State Building and Andrew Garfield's at Chrysler Building? It's a better view. Tobey Maguire's
the other way around.
Oh, the other way around. He goes, no, it's a great view. That is a great view. And obviously MJ's like, I know where he'll be.
Yeah, because they were on the roof of the school building at the beginning of the film, weren't they, together?
And then you have that bit where they all meet, and it's
man, like the whole like, I've lost someone as well. He's like, don't you tell me about losing people. And he's like, I lost my Uncle Ben, and it was entirely my fault. And the other one's like, I lost Gwen.
Yeah,
she was,
she's my MJ.
Yeah. It's like they all kind of bare their souls, and then they decide, right, okay, we've got to figure this out. And so they go into the lab
at school.
And the lab scene I thought was brilliant as well, because it kind of brings out the scientific nerdy side of each of their characters. But they all do their own little individual
they're good at different things.
But
one's good at like chemistry, one's good at electronics, one's good at, like, it's brilliant. It's so good.
And even down to the fact that Andrew Garfield at one point does that kind of walk one way, turn around, walk back, walk around the other way, which he did in the films. If you remember when he was getting with Gwen at the beginning, he does that kind of like. And it was little idiosyncrasies like that I was like, oh, brilliant! This is so good.
And then Ned's sort of like trying to find out if they've their own guy in the chair. He goes up to Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, doesn't he? He's like, so do you have a best friend? He's like, I did.
And then he tried to kill me.
Then he tried to kill me.
So I eventually killed him or something like that.
Yeah, and he's like, all right. And then you see him, and then it gets really awkward. Like, it's just the thing. He's like, oh, can you run another diagnostic? He's like, yeah. And like presses the button and sort of stares at him and then walks
Stands
away,
back,
sort of keeps his distance.
And then right at the end of that scene, he's like, I'm never gonna betray you and try and kill you. He's like, okay.
Brilliant. Cool. Yeah, all right. But that whole scene is just, and in there as well, Ned goes, Peter. And they all go, yeah, what? And he goes, no, Peter. And he goes, yeah, what? And he goes, Peter Parker. He goes, well, we've all got that. And he's, my Peter. Is that the computer?
The computer.
But yeah, so see, they're all working on cures for their own villains, because they know how each of them works.
Yeah.
And then they try to figure out how they're going to draw them out as well, don't they? Like with that cube. I think, is it why can't I remember his name, the actor? That's why I keep saying our Peter Parker.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland, yeah. Sort of does that video, doesn't he? So one of my favourite things as well is the first J. Jonah Jameson broadcast. Yeah. When it finishes, you see the studio he's in. It's like a basement with a camera and a small green screen. It's like he's like an independent like a broadcaster. And the next time you see him, he's in a big studio, like with a big TV screen in the background.
Like that scoop on who Peter Parker was has made him
major thing. So it makes you realize that in this world, Daily Bugle's not a big news corporation like it is in the others, which is cool. And like in this universe, we don't have Oscorp, whereas in the other two we do. And it's really cool actually, how they're sort of drawing it together and shit. But they figure out, he sends a video to the Daily Bugle basically saying,
I'm going to be at the Statue of Liberty
with the Captain America shield,
which they mentioned in Hawkeye as well. She's like, I want to see the new Statue of Liberty.
And he's basically said, I've got this cube. It's going to send I'm going to try and help the villains. I'm going to send them back. Blah blah blah. Like,
because they need the box. Because if they've got the box, they're destroyed. Not gonna. Yeah, they don't want to be sent back to their dimensions. They flip over there, and then there's that brilliant scene of them waiting for the villains to show up, and all the Spider-Men are just doing the chat, and they're like, oh, so and Andrew Garfield's one is like, oh, I'm so lame compared to you guys, because Tom Holland's Peter Parker has been to space.
Oh, that's it, because he goes,
Tobey Maguire,
what's the best villain you've ever
killed an alien
you've ever beat? He goes, oh, I thought this alien is like, who's like black goo. That's like, And
at that point I was like, oh shit, Venom.
In Spider-Man 3.
No, but you didn't see Venom versus Carnage, did you?
I haven't, no. But also what I was going to say is, at band practice the other night, I was saying, because I think there's going to be another guy, somebody else that shows up, because you'd seen it and I hadn't. What I was thinking of was Venom showing up. Could show up in this film,
because at the end of Venom versus Carnage, because you've seen this film now. At the end of Venom versus, one of the post-credit scenes was the fact that he came into the MCU right at the end and saw the Spider-Man J. Jonah Jameson footage. And was like, "Oh, this guy's interesting."
I had heard about that. But yeah, there's that bit, and then obviously Tom Holland's like, yeah, I fought alien up in space.
I went
and
to
then
space.
big purple alien in space, and then down on Earth. And like, you went to space? Yeah.
And Andrew
Garfield's
Garfield.
like, oh God, so lame.
But also, I think that's kind of addressing the trolls as well, who hated the Andrew Garfield character. Yeah. And they're like, no, man, you're not lame. You're amazing.
Yeah, the amazing Spider-Man. Yeah. No, man, you're amazing. And then
there's the bit with Tobey Maguire stretching his back out. It's like, because they're like, oh, are you just going to dress like a youth pastor, or have you got your suit? And he's like, yeah, I've got the suit. He's stretching his back out, and Andrew Garfield's like, oh, how are you? And he's like, I've got this problem with my back, and he's like, oh, I've got a middle back thing too. I can help you crick it out if you like.
That scene's just so good. They didn't do the pointy thing though.
They did it in the credits, in the drawings.
Oh yeah.
But there's a drawing of two Spider-Men pointing at each other. But yes, you're right. Yeah. I thought that they would do that for real. Yeah, and then the villains all start showing up one by one.
So good. And so this scene, obviously, of them on, because there's a leaked set footage from months and months ago where you see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire sort of on scaffolding, with Tobey Maguire standing, Andrew Garfield crouched down against one bit, and they're like on a blue screen scaffold set. And there's a photo of that, and people saying, "Oh no, it's faked, it's not real." But actually, it's from that scene where they just stood around talking, more than likely.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. It's sort of exactly the same thing. But yeah, that's when all the villains start showing up.
I just remembered that Electro escaped with an arc reactor from the start thing, which makes him super powerful. But again, that leads back to my whole point of like, everything that's wrong in this universe is because of Stark technology.
Yeah.
Everything. And again, it's another thing for that. Like, even though Tony Stark is dead, his stuff is still making problems.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, so I can't remember who shows up first. Which villain shows up first?
I think it's Electro and Sandman. I want to say.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who there would be. Electro, Sandman, Doc Ock, Goblin, and the Lizard. Yeah, it's probably Electro and Sandman actually coming together. Yeah, riding in together on the electricity.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think the Lizard is swimming and gets out of the water while they're up the top. So the three of them are there. Green Goblin comes in later, I think.
Yeah, so I think it's just those three villains at this point. You've got, because as they come in, I think they've got the box, but as they're coming in, Ned sort of has got a portal open. So then they throw the box through the portal, but Ned can't shut the portal.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got that moment where they're sitting like, well, how did you do it last night? I don't know. Just close. Like, they're having that argument while this fight's going on. And the fight's sort of all over the place. And
I think the three Spider-Men are trying to fight Electro and Sandman.
Yeah.
And Electro at this point has got a suit which is harnessing the arc reactor, and he's got, because he's so much more powerful, that's where the little kind of spiky star emblem comes over his face when he's shooting electricity
from the comic.
But they're not doing very well, and then they kind of regroup in the center, and they're like, we're not doing this right. Like, I don't know how to work as part of a team. And Tom Holland's like, I was part of a team, I know exactly how we should do this. I was part of the Avengers. And they're like, what's the Avengers? Is that a band? Were you in a band?
That's when Tobey Maguire's like, oh, you were? That's awesome. Who are the Avengers?
But then they decide, we've got to coordinate attacks and kind of, figure out who we're going to take down first, and all this.
That is probably my favorite scene in the whole film. When they start swinging together, and then
all of them doing their own,
silhouetted in the moon in their own
individual poses as well. It looks so cool.
Proper goosebumps at that point.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And they start curing people. Well, no, just before they start curing people, I think that's when Green Goblin shows up. They seem to be doing well.
Yeah.
But then
because they've got,
I think that portal's open
and dives into basically goes. It's in the school lab, isn't it?
Yeah.
MJ and Ned are there.
I think that's when Tom Holland goes through that portal as well to try and get Lizard back out.
Yeah. So they kill the Sandman by trapping him in the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
He kind of goes in through the bottom and comes up through into the head and nearly drowns Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
But just in time, they get the cure into him and he becomes himself again.
Yeah.
Then Dr. Octopus shows up and takes the arc reactor off Electro.
Yeah.
And replaces it with the containment thing.
Which drains really quickly this time.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's the new version.
It's the new version, yeah.
It's the new version that Andrew Garfield would have built.
This is what I mean. Dr. Octopus shows up and is still a good guy.
Yes.
He just disappeared for the same amount of time that Tom Holland disappeared. And at this point, the Green Goblin has also showed up. I think, was it Tom Holland's Spider-Man or was it Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man who cures the Lizard? I think it was Andrew Garfield.
I think MJ runs through, grabs the cure and throws it to one of them.
Yeah.
And I think, it is... No, it's Tom Holland. Yeah, it's Tom Holland. I thought because he says about he talks to him, doesn't he? Yeah, it's Tom Holland who kills the Lizard. Not that it's important; it just happens. But then Green Goblin's there, and obviously
he looks proper Green Goblin now. He's got the flight goggles and the hood over his head, and it all turns to shit. And he blows up part of the Statue of Liberty, and then MJ falls off. And this is the bit where Tom Holland goes to try and grab her, but then the Green Goblin smashes into him. And this is the bit where I cried.
Yeah.
Because Andrew Garfield's character gets to save MJ.
Yeah.
From falling.
Which he
didn't get to do with Gwen. And
he did it right this time because he caught her rather than webbed her. Oh. It was just so good. It's just like, and because then you see him emotional because he managed to do...
He's like, "Are you all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, are you all right?"
Yeah,
because he's a wreck.
Yeah, that's just so good. That bit is just.
It was one of my absolute favorite bits of this film because that was the bit that ruined me in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. The bit where he let accidentally
killed her. Because he did. Well, because the thing is that she would, like, his Gwen would have died.
Yeah.
Like, Gwen Stacy would have died if she'd hit the floor. He tried to save her, but just ended up snapping her neck.
Yeah.
Or her back, essentially. Because he can get to her in time. But in this one, Like, so he did kill her. Kind of. But he had no choice, really.
But while trying to save her, yeah.
Whereas this one, he sort of...
But they've all had the conversation about, like, these are the things that kind of turned me bad, if you like. Like, there was the Tobey Maguire thing, like, I killed Norman Osborn with his own hoverboard.
Yeah.
And, I never really recovered from that. And Andrew Garfield is like, was it the losing Gwen thing? Was like, that turned me onto a path that I became vengeful. Yeah. And Tom Holland's character hasn't had that. Until Aunt May dies. And then he's like, the Green Goblin is now
I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to kill them. Like, we need to just kill them or send them back. Like, there was that whole conversation, wasn't there? And then that's when they decided, actually, we're going to try and save them.
Yeah.
But Tom Holland sort of seemed to have, he had that vengeful moment, but he seemed good. It seemed like he was back to normal.
Yeah.
Back to normal. We will save them. Fine.
And then as the Green Goblin has kind of carried him away, he reaches into a section of the thing and pulls out a pumpkin bomb and shoves it into the exhaust system or the engine, which causes them to crash in Captain America's shield.
Yeah.
And then he goes postal on Norman Osborn. Like, even though Norman seems to have turned back from, was he still? No, he was still the Green Goblin persona, wasn't he? Yeah. And he goes mental on him, and then goes to lift the hoverboard up to kill him, and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man shows up and wrestles it off him.
Well, he just stops it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's just staring.
He just stares right into his eyes, and
he doesn't say anything.
Yeah. It was so good.
Yeah.
Like all three of their acting, because the Andrew Garfield bit where he's rescued MJ, he doesn't really say anything, and it's all in his eyes.
Yeah.
And then that bit between Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland as well is just all in the eyes, and it's fucking powerful. Yeah. But then Green Goblin skewers Tobey Maguire.
I was just like,
with
what?
like a retractable claw thing on his wrist.
Yeah, I was just like,
yeah. What? And then you're like, well,
how is this killing off Tobey Maguire?
How is this going to end up? And then
because of that, Tom Holland's face changed. Like he's going to kill him. He's going to fucking kill him. Like he reaches back, doesn't he? And then
MJ throws the cure.
MJ throws the cure.
Yeah.
And I think it's Andrew Garfield throws the cure. MJ throws the prop cure. I think it's Andrew Garfield.
Okay, right.
Because he says nice throw, nice catch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So then he catches it and
stabs him in the neck with it. I mean,
he cures him.
And then he's like, "Oh, what have I done?"
Yeah.
Like, you find out, like all these Spider-Man villains. We've always said it throughout the years. They're all good people, but have been corrupted in some way that they're not necessarily in control of. Like the Dr. Octopus character is corrupted by his suit. Norman Osborn is corrupted by the other half of his brain that's evil. Yeah. But the actual character, Norman Osborn himself, is not a bad person, and neither is Octavius.
Yeah, and it's and even Dr. Connors isn't. It's because he's an amputee, wasn't he?
That's right.
And
he was trying to
lizard. He wanted to grow his limb back like a lizard, but he ended up becoming a lizard and thinks, this feels great. Everyone should have this. Sandman it was an accident.
Yeah.
He just wanted to get back to his family.
Yeah, and he's angry that he never can.
Yeah. They're all broken, and they do say that in this, is they've all got their issues. Like Tom Holland's like, they've all got their problems, but we can help them.
Yeah.
But I think it was at that point where they're having a conversation and they look down and they're like, "Are you okay?" to Tobey Maguire, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been stabbed before, it's fine."
And then
you're like, thank God for that.
Then Doctor Strange turns up and is like, right, okay. He tries to recast the spell, but it escapes. He's not strong enough to pull it back in again.
Did they not plunge the box and send them all back? And that's what broke.
Oh, maybe,
the universe. Because that's when I think there was a point. What was it? What was it that caused the spell to break? And then you see all the cracks in the sky, and it was just like, that looks amazing. I can't remember what set that off. Because I'm sure they sent everyone back before that happened. No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. No.
Didn't.
I don't remember. He escapes in the mirror dimension. Apparently, Norman Osborn destroys the box, setting the spell out. Doctor Strange has to try and hold it.
That's it. Yeah,
and he can't, and then it explodes.
I remember, because as it's thrown, there's a pumpkin bomb in the box.
That's right. Yeah,
and as somebody went to plunge it, that set the pumpkin bomb off.
Yeah.
That was it.
Doctor Strange has turned up at this point and is kind of helping them. But then
he turned up during the fight, and
happens.
MJ's like, look, it's working. Like, he's curing them all. Because he was going to plunge it before the pumpkin bomb was in there.
Yeah. But then he can't hold it in any longer, and it explodes, the spell, that is. Then cracks start appearing in the sky, and it's the multiverse because it's purple.
Yes, it's so
which we've learned from Loki.
Now, I'm wondering what I want to do is look up to see which characters are trying to come through, because there's
Rhino was definitely there, and the Scorpion was definitely there. Right. There was a Scorpion and a Rhino up there, but I couldn't look around enough.
Fast enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's what's happening is because the spell is to get everyone to forget Peter Parker was Spider-Man. What the spell actually is doing now, because it's broken, is it would bring anyone who knows any Spider-Man.
Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why all the villains show up, is because the broken spell brings people that know he's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
So everyone coming through is like, hey, Peter Parker.
Yeah. And so Doctor Strange is trying to stop these rifts happening.
He's trying to repair,
and he's like, okay, so the only thing that can happen here is that we do the original spell where everyone forgets that I'm Spider-Man, and then we send these people home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's like, so he says, I think he says to him, so this is bringing anyone who knows Peter Parker or had anything to do with Peter Parker. So the only thing we can do is to get everyone to forget Peter Parker, not just Spider-Man. It's forget Peter Parker.
That's right.
And then Doctor Strange is like, but that means anyone who knows you is going to be like, you never existed. And he's like, yeah, I know, but it needs to happen.
Yeah. Because he's lost his Aunt May at this point. She's his only family.
Yeah.
The only thing that's gonna really, that you kind of get the impression that he's upset about, is obviously MJ and Ned forgetting who he is. Everyone else is kind of like, meh. Even the Avengers, even Doctor Strange himself won't remember Peter Parker.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what he agrees. And so like he goes down and tells MJ that this is what's going to happen. And he's like, it's okay. I'll come and find you guys and I'll make you remember who I am and everything will be fine. And that scene as well is a real killer.
Yeah. He says goodbye to the Spider-Man, which is cool. Like, that's nice.
Yeah,
like,
they all go back to their own dimensions.
Yeah. It's one thing. Speaking of the Spider-Man, one thing is the nod to Miles Morales as well.
Yeah. There's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere.
Yeah, Electro, isn't it? Jamie Foxx is like, there's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere.
Yeah. I just always thought you were from Queens. You were wearing a mask. I just figured you'd be black.
That's it. Yeah, that's so good. But yeah, so he goes back, tells Ned and MJ, and they're like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And they're saying their goodbyes, and then he looks up at Steve and sort of gives him the nod.
Yeah.
Let's not think about the fact that Stephen Strange is floating above where the torch is.
Yeah. They wouldn't be able to see
down on the ground and nod, like subtle nod. Let's forget
the magic of film.
Yeah, he sort of whips off. I don't know what he grabs, but he does it anyway.
Yeah.
Let's not ask questions.
And then so the entire world now doesn't know who Peter Parker is. He then goes and tries to find MJ. And he goes to the cafe that she works in, and Ned's in there, and Ned comes in as well, and none of them remember him. He keeps thinking that there's a little bit of recognition somewhere, but there just isn't. There isn't at all.
Yes.
And then he kind of realizes that I can't
do it to them.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's like they seem happy.
Yeah.
As they are, not knowing who he is, and it's like it's that weird thing, isn't it? Like before they forget him, it's like this is the worst thing that could ever happen to us. But actually, it's fine.
Yeah, it's all fine.
They're happy. They're going to MIT.
That also seems to free him up as well, because when he leaves the cafe, like it then flips to him swinging through the New York skyline again, and he seems completely free. Yeah, like he's moved out. He's moved into his own apartment.
He's got the little Palpatine Lego figure.
Yeah.
Andrew reminded me of that this morning.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
In the chat.
Yeah. The foreshadowing of the broken Death Star. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's moved into his own apartment. He's his own man now.
He's got the police scanner app.
Got the police scanner app. He's making his own costumes because obviously he's lost all the tech ones, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's the moment when he goes to May's grave, and he's stood there with her, and then Happy turns up, and he's like, "Oh, how did you know that?" He's like, "Oh, I know through Spider-Man." Happy's like, "Yeah, me too."
Yeah. So Spider-Man is still remembered by people, but Peter Parker isn't. So he can still be Spider-Man, but he just Oh yeah, so he still will be an Avenger, but just people won't know his identity.
Yeah, so he's just going to have his mask on, essentially. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's so good. There was another one of the other conversations between the three Spider-Men, and I can't remember if it was on Statue of Liberty. I think it was on the Statue of Liberty when they're talking about the web shooters. Because Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland built their web shooters, and then obviously Tobey Maguire is so just
does that just come out of you? Like, he's like, I don't really think about it that much. Yeah. It's like breathing. Like I just breathe. I just create this stuff, and they're like, does it come out of anywhere else? Yeah. But
that's quite a funny
there's a lot of great stuff that goes on in the film. There's lots of things that we've probably missed because there's so much that goes on. But then right at the end, you get the Eddie Brock Venom bit where he's like in Mexico somewhere at a bar, absolutely hammered. And he's like, so wait, so there's all these people with abilities, and like he's trying to get straight, like the Thanos thing, like half the world disappeared, and like what, like
for 5 years? 5 years is a long time.
And then right at the end, they're like sucked back to their own dimension, but a bit of the symbiote is left on the bar, which makes no sense, but it's great because it means that Venom is going to be in the MCU as well.
So good.
Yeah. And then the final post credits thing is the trailer for
the Multiverse of
Madness, which looks insane.
It looks incredible. It looks so good.
Because I hadn't realized that we hadn't seen a trailer for it before. We hadn't seen anything about this film.
I heard Scarlet Witch was in it, but it seems like she's going to be a massive part of it.
It's a team up.
It's a Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch film.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But it's basically, it seems to come off the back of this. It's like, well, you just opened this rift and now what the fuck? Like loads of shit. Yeah.
Everything is completely fucked.
You're not the Sorcerer Supreme. You shouldn't be messing around with this stuff. And now you've got to go and sort it out. Like, this is your mess. You Scooby-Doo this.
So then he goes to find Wanda and he's like, what do you know about the multiverse? And then you see him at one point, he's casting a spell, but it looks like he's casting it with the Scarlet Witch's power. Yeah. Like the red power, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then you see him, that scene where he's in that castle where he comes again back to what we were saying, he comes face to face with evil Doctor Strange, doesn't he? Or even evil Stephen Strange. Is that in the building that's at the end of time?
That's a good question. I hadn't,
when Loki goes to see the timekeeper, timekeeper.
Yeah, it's Kang, isn't it?
Kang. Yeah, he goes to see Kang. Is that in his building? It
looks like it was. That's a good question. Yeah, interesting.
Because you see all like space out in the back. Yeah. So
good point.
But
that's going to be even more mind bending than this film, I think.
Yeah. What trailers did you have at the beginning?
I can't remember.
Did you see the trailer for Morbius?
Oh yeah. I've seen a bunch of Morbius trailers.
Oh, this one
because I've been to the cinema a lot. Yeah,
Morbius looks incredible.
Yeah, it looks alright, doesn't it?
I think it looks amazing. It's weird because it's like vampires in the MCU. You got vampires in the MCU. Couldn't you, in theory, have zombies as well?
But vampires have kind of always been there because Blade is coming into the MCU as well.
Yeah, and Morbius brings Blade. Yeah, good point. Morbius would probably bring Blade in that sense.
Well, no, technically, the very end of the Eternals, there's a voice from off screen right at the very end, and that is apparently Blade.
Oh, okay.
But you don't see him. I didn't know it was him. Just heard this through listening to something else, and they were disappointed because they were like, if you're going to bring Blade into the universe, which they're going to do anyway, why not just have him on screen rather than just his voice? Like, it's a weird
that means
decision.
Nothing. Yeah,
because I genuinely thought, like, I don't know who that is, but it sounds like Sam Jackson. But it wasn't. It was Mahershala Ali. So like,
but that means nothing then, doesn't it? Like, people don't know what that is. It's weird. And even for the people that do know the character, it should be obvious that it's the character.
Yeah,
obvious
but it was
for
also
that know. Like the post-credit scene with the pager with Captain Marvel's logo. Like for people that don't know, you're like, oh, what's that? That's interesting. For me, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
That's
so I suppose they do this. I suppose they do this, but yeah, it was odd because it was also
Blade. So you should have known. There should have been enough for you to know that was Blade.
Yeah. But he was interacting with a character who is unknown, kind of, as well. So it was a really weird choice at the end sequence in that film. Like, it was very, very strange. Anyway, yes, Morbius looks. I'll go and see that because it does look interesting. But yeah, they've signed on. They've allowed Spider-Man to have 3 more films at Marvel, haven't they?
Yes.
So, you know. Yeah, we'll see what they do with the character.
I believe they did say Tom Holland's coming back for at least.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, whether he passes the mantle on to Miles,
Black Spider-Man.
Yeah. Because Miles Morales' uncle was the what's his name, Childish Gambino character in the first Homecoming.
Oh.
That character is because what's his name? Childish Gambino.
Donald Glover.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
He says like, because he catches him and sticks him to the car, doesn't he? He's like, oh man, I got ice cream in here for my nephew. And that like character's
dealer.
That's right. Yeah. And he is in the comic books because Donald Glover always wanted to play Spider-Man.
Yeah,
when he was younger, he around the Tobey Maguire era. Yeah, he was like, "No, you should do Miles Morales. I want to be Miles Morales. Let me be Miles Morales." But they didn't go down that route, and so like because he's been known to be a big Spider-Man fan, specifically Miles Morales. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, well, you can be this character," and so there is a Miles Morales out there. Like that groundwork has been laid. So I do wonder whether that will be like Tom Holland passing the mantle, or maybe they work together or something like that. You know, you have 2 Spider-Men.
Yeah, and you've brought wow, yeah, and they've laid the groundwork, like obviously with the uncle, but then also Jamie Foxx saying, "I always thought Spider-Man there should be a black Spider-Man out there." Like,
yeah, it makes sense that it will be that next. In it will be, you know, one of those movies will introduce Miles Morales, and then by the 3rd movie, Miles Morales will just be the Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah. That's interesting.
Maybe, I don't know. Like this is
calling the shots. We did reverse House of M. We're calling the shots.
yeah, that came true.
Yeah. No, anyway,
but I've heard the Multiverse of Madness. I've heard a rumor about that in the and specifically one who was never going to play that character again.
No.
Yeah. The whole Hugh Jackman of it all is going to be playing Wolverine, but I wonder whether that's just going to be like a cameo, and that actually like whoever plays Wolverine in it, who knows?
If they're going to do it, because obviously there's rumors that Deadpool's going to be in the MCU.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. That's
not necessarily Multiverse Madness, but if they're bringing Hugh Jackman,
then
like,
you've got
Wolverine has to be sat there talking to Deadpool. Like it has to be.
Yeah,
you have to put both of them in it together.
Yeah,
because of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's relationship, and
because they never were on screen together in any of those movies, were they?
I don't believe so. No.
Well,
unless you count like the cover of a magazine, or Deadpool wearing Hugh Jackman's face as a mask.
Yeah.
Was it that, or was that Ryan Reynolds' face? No, it was Hugh Jackman's face, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know he makes reference to Ryan Reynolds as well.
That's true.
Deadpool doesn't it? But the fact that those two, you have to.
Yeah, it would be good. So I'm really looking forward to that, and that comes out next year sometime, doesn't it? May or something.
Yeah, I think next film I'll probably be seeing at the cinema is The Matrix. Clearly,
of course. Yeah. I'm definitely
that looks fantastic.
Going to see that. I don't know whether I'll get around to it before Christmas or whether it'll be something that I do between Christmas and New Year. But
possibly for me as well. But it needs to happen because Matrix being one of my favorite film.
Yeah,
needs to happen.
but I just think
the look of Matrix, like the new one,
looks really interesting.
So I'm saying I need to watch the original with her, and Liz is like, no, because it's going to look crap now. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Shut up. Because it doesn't.
What, a 23-year-old movie?
It looks great still.
The first one does.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The one that used barely any CGI.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well,
cool.
I enjoyed that. Joe's back. So we need to stop talking about this film.
All in all, 2 thumbs up.
Oh, yeah,
for
definitely.
Sure. If I had more, if I had 8 arms, it would be 8 thumbs up.
For sure.
Because that's Spider.
I like it. It's good.
6.
Spiders have 8 legs.
Spiders have 8?
Yeah. Insects have 6. Arachnids have 8.
I'm getting confused. Like I'm thinking octopus is 8.
And spiders.
So to spider? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Either way, multiple thumbs up.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
you made a good joke and then talk yourself out of it.
It's not like me at all, is it?
You can edit around that bit. You can. It's fine.
No, fuck it. Too much work. Brilliant.
Cool. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Let us know what you guys thought. I guess
for sure.
And obviously this will go out on the main feed way down the line when it's out on DVD. But
but for you guys on Patreon, you've got it now.
Let's start having a chat in the
comments.
Please. In the comments. Yeah.
Wicked.
All right, cool. So until next time, I've been Tom.
And I've been Ant.
Bye.